Chapter 20, Apprehension. Author's note: Hey everyone, I am back. I am starting to worry. I want to finish this SLYTHERIN before the year ends and time don't seem to be by my side. Anyway, I will try. Besides, I think I might try a hand at a Christmas smut one-shot. That will be fun. Anyone out there can help me? I really need the original school schedule for the Harry Potter series. I don't want to get the school year and timeline wrong. Please. T_T. Question and answers. Dark Serpent Cat, thank you for the introduction. Maybe I will try it in a different story or one-shot cause I have this one plan out. Besides, I have not seen any story yet with the same idea as mine, so I am following mine. I love your idea though. We'll use it somewhere, I suppose. Tongue. Chapter 20, Apprehension. Harry groaned as he slipped into his seat in Professor McGonagall's class. Both Ron and Hermione glanced at him, one in concern and the other with amusement and a serves-you-right look. Harry ignored them both and settled down on his seat slowly and, most importantly, carefully. Seeing Hermione's grin, Harry snapped. "What?" "Oh, nothing," replied Hermione in a sing-song voice, a slight grin on her face. Harry winced as the muscles in his body and arm throbbed silently in protest when he turned around to retrieve his feather and quill. Oliver had made Harry and the entire team practice continuously throughout the weekend, continuously despite numerous protests and complaints from everyone. By Sunday night, Harry was sore in places where he was not even aware muscles exist. Mentally cursing Oliver, Harry gritted out his reply through clenched teeth. "Out with it, Hermione. I can see you are bursting to say it." "If you insist. I told you so. I told you so," giggled Hermione in glee. "You should have reasoned with Oliver, explained the whole situation to him. That he is overworking all of you. It is not like he won't listen, and I told you, I have, numerous times." "He won't listen," moaned Harry. "All of us had tried, even Angelina, and she is the serious one." "Yeah mate, my sympathies." "My brothers used to talk about him." "You are getting it easy from what I have heard," added Ron. "What, easy?" yelped Harry. "If that is easy, I wonder what hard is." "Settle down, students. Or would you rather teach the class for me, Miss Granger?" "Mr. Potter?" interrupted Professor McGonagall when she saw Hermione opening her mouth. Embarrassed, Hermione dipped her head bashfully. Harry just stiffly adjusted himself and winced again when his leg muscles protested. Seeing that, Professor McGonagall raised an eyebrow. "I am guessing wood?" Harry stiffly nodded, trying to limit the amount of movement of his body. Professor McGonagall sighed, though Harry swore he saw a twinkle in her eyes. "Very well then, your teammates apparently are in the same delicate position as you. Therefore, today class, we will be a revision. I hope everyone remembers the basics in Transfiguration. Here are your needles and teapots. I want a matchstick and a dancing teapot from each of you by the end of the class." With a wave of her wand, a small box of needles and teapots appeared on her table. Ron promptly put his hand on Harry's shoulder. Then, he proceeded to obtain the necessary items for all three of them. Soon, each of them settled down with their respective items. Hermione took out her wand and with a lavish wave, turned her needle into a matchstick. Next, she muttered an incantation and jabbed the teapot gently. Spindly china legs grew out of the side of the teapot. The teapot then proceeded to tap dance on the same spot, much to the delight and amusement of Hermione. Professor McGonagall gave Hermione one of her rare smiles. "Excellent work, Ms. Granger. I see you have been practicing. 10 points to Gryffindor. You may have the rest of the lesson free. I would appreciate if you help your fellow classmates in their wand work." Hermione smiled happily and turned towards Ron. Poor Ron's teapot had turned a brilliant shade of magenta and was spouting yellow steam from its spout. He was frantically waving his wand around, trying to cancel the spell when he let out a yelp. While brushing his hand left and right across the table, he had pricked himself on his needle. Hermione just gave a sigh. Harry, on the other hand, was having different problems. His needle had been successfully turned into a matchstick. However, his teapot had turned into a brilliant shade of poisonous green. A green waving pattern had appeared on it. It was also furiously hissing steam, and he was startled when he heard it talking. "Below, below, below." Broken bar. Alarmed, he tried to flick his wand but let out a huff when Ron's waving hand crashed into his. His wand slipped and Harry made a grab for it and missed. His wand felt and Harry feared for its life. Suddenly, The wand stopped in midair. Poisonous green liquid seemed to ooze out of the wand as the wand righted itself vertically and pointed downwards. The wand suspended itself 5 centimeters from the wooden floor. The liquid flowed downwards but seemed to disappear as soon as it reached the tip of the wand. Curious, Harry stared at his wand. Madara, who had seen everything and was curled around his arm under his robes, tightened its grip around Harry's arm. "Grab it." Harry glanced up. No one had seen his wand's strange behavior. Hermione was busy helping Ron and the rest of the class was busy with their own exercise. Carefully, he reached for his wand, careful not to touch the strange liquid. As soon as Harry touched his wand, the liquid disappeared. Wide eyes, Harry picked up his wand and inspected it. "What do you think just happened?" asked Harry quietly. "Don't know. Keep it to ourselves. Focus on your task. We will discuss it later. Now, as for where you went wrong, you are supposed to swish your wand upwards first." "A broken bar," Madara ordered. Harry droned out for a while, still puzzled. He soon dismissed his thoughts and focused on Madara's instructions. Ever since the first few days, Madara had insisted in accompanying Harry to all his classes. "The castle is boring," the snake had said. Even so, Harry could not help feeling a little embarrassed that his snake seemed to pay more attention to his classes than him. March passed quickly and soon, it was the middle of spring. The Hogwarts grounds have never been so lush and magic seemed to hum quietly everywhere. The students were slightly restless, all eager to enjoy a little scenery. Harry especially was amazed. The plants he encountered in herbology are in full bloom. Most of them have beautiful flowers in full bloom, with most of it releasing an enticing scent. Professor Sprout had warned them against a few species though. The flowers were traps and the plants are carnivorous in some way, absorbing nutrients and minerals directly from insects or living as parasites on hosts. At present, Harry, Hermione and Ron were on the Hogwarts grounds. Classes had finished early and the three of them were enjoying a little sunshine and fresh air near the lake. In fact, most of the Hogwarts students are out at the lake. Gryffindors, Hufflepuffs, Ravenclaws dotted the edge of the lake, in groups were mingling together. Slytherins were also at the far end of the lake, all huddled together and giving scowls and glares at anyone who dare invade their territory. Lazily opening his eye while reclining against a tree, Harry saw the Weasley twins farther down the beach. The giant squid which resides in the lake had risen to the surface and the twins were busy tickling or tormenting the squid. Former or latter, Harry has no idea. Oliver was behind the twins, watching them with interest. Harry scowled. He still have not forgive Oliver for giving him sore muscles 3 weeks in a row despite that the Gryffindor team had toned down their practice sessions. Professor McGonagall had finally taken pity on her students and had a word with a sulking Oliver. Cedric was with Oliver, his head on Oliver's lap, and he looked peaceful, lying out on the grass and basking in the golden rays with his eyes closed. Hermione was beside Harry, back against the tree trunk and busy reading a book. Ron on the other hand was looking at her in horror as his idea of relaxation is somewhere far far away from any books. Hermione at present was pointedly ignoring him. Madara had slithered off somewhere to hunt if Harry was not mistaken. Yet, he could not help but have a slight suspicion that the snake only wanted to leave him so it could sunbathe for hours without him teasing the snake whenever Harry had the chance. A gentle breeze blew across the lake and with it came the clanging of the school's heavy front doors, so faint he almost missed it. Glancing that way, he saw a teacher strode out and walked towards the forbidden forest. It was obvious it was Professor Quirrell, not only because of the turban but the jittery steps that the professor was taking that make him seem like a walking jelly. Harry frowned. Defense against the dark arts by far is his least favorite class. Professor Quirrell is a good teacher so far, but his stuttering makes it hard for anyone to understand anything. Not to mention the teacher is always so timid, causing him to be teased mercilessly by some of the wilder students. To top it off, Harry always feels a sense of uneasiness when he is around the professor at the start of each month. Harry could not explain it, he just feel it. It is like something wriggling in excitement inside him whenever the professor is close, yet not in a good way in Harry's own opinion. Furthermore, he feels like something is bothering him, his mind, like something is trying to speak to him or touch him whenever the professor is close. The feelings only intensified in discomfort at the start of each month, only to fade slightly as the days passed. No, Harry thought, definitely not his favorite class. With all that mix-up feelings, He finds it hard to concentrate in class and have been reading it up himself, borrowing notes from Hermione or looking it up in the school library. Hermione has dismissed it as him being paranoid when he shared it with her, and Ron was skeptical as Harry could never explain it clearly to him about what was bothering him. Madara had believed him, of course, because it had felt those feelings too, though from their conversations, on a much smaller scale compared with Harry. Suddenly, a yell drew Harry's attention away from the professor's silhouette. Turning back, he gave a chuckle. The giant squid had decided to retaliate and had squirted water at the twins. Unfortunately, with such a strong jet of water, the twins had been thrown backwards and had crashed into Oliver and Cedric in a tangle of limbs. They were soaking wet, and even from their distance, Harry and his two friends can see Oliver's face seething in anger. The twins jumped up and ran. Oliver was on their tail, wand up and with curses and jinx shooting out of his wand. Poor Cedric was left behind, wet, alone and with a bemused expression on his face. Watching the three figures disappeared from sight, Harry laughed, along with the rest of the students present. The squid gave a slight wave of its tentacles, as if it is enjoy a good laugh too. "I wonder what Professor Dumbledore is planning," muttered Hermione. "Huh?" Ron asked, and Harry swiveled his head towards her. Looking at their confused expressions, Hermione closed her book with a snap. "You two didn't read the notice board this morning, didn't you?" Both of them shake their heads. "That's why we have you, Hermione," Ron replied with a grin. Hermione gave him a glare. "Professor Dumbledore is giving us a surprise holiday coming up, and I am not telling you what. Find out yourself," interjected Hermione tartly when Ron opened his mouth. Harry frowned. "Whatever it is, it better not be like Halloween," he thought. "Then again, I just might make another new friend." Harry chuckled at his own joke and glanced at Ron and Hermione as they looked at him in confusion. Chapter 21. What a day. Author's note: Hey everyone, just in case I don't update, Merry Christmas. D. Thank you for sticking with me so far. You all have been really nice, especially those that give such lovely reviews. Oh yeah, as for the timetable thing, I would still like if someone can supply it to me. I need a whole school year schedule. For example, in my country, the beginning of a school year starts usually at the 4th of January. There is a holiday in either February or March for the Chinese New Year. School continues all the way to end of May or start of June. This is the end of the first school term, and I then get to enjoy roughly 2 weeks holiday. After that, it is the second school term and begins all the way till November, depending on the Islamic calendar. We usually have a week off somewhere in September. Then, in November, it is the end of one school year. We then enjoy 1.5 months worth of holiday. This is a normal school year in my country. If I am not mistaken, the Americans and British have a different school year, right? I am guessing it is due to the 4 seasons you all experienced. Therefore, it is quite confusing for me and I can't really pinpoint when school starts till when. So, can someone please help me? Puppy dog eyes. Questions and answers. Rajiel Cullen 3. My mother took my laptop cause she thinks I am on Facebook or gaming when I am actually reading fanfic. I spent a lot of time reading. You can say I am addicted. Giggle. I never bothered to correct my mother as she does not know my preferences and I want to keep it that way. As for Cedric and Oliver, I have plans for them. The want, however, can only be explained in the second series. Really sorry. T_T, Louise 4200. Actually, I never knew Madara Akaya existed until someone pointed it out. I was thinking for a name and it just popped out. I guess I heard the name a long time ago and forgot about it. Who knows? I don't. However, I swear it was not on purpose. Dark Serpent Cat, thank you. That was helpful. Now I can use this schedule properly. D. Chapter 21. What a day. Days passed and Hermione's words were soon forgotten in favor of incomplete homework and practicing wand movements. Harry was determined to master his studies properly. When he was with the Dursleys, the only thing stopping Harry from scoring the top of his class was that it will only draw too much attention to himself. Furthermore, Dudley had also kicked up a fuss every time Harry scores better than him. The subsequent beatings and verbal abuse by Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia did the decision for him. He used to spend hours in his school library. No one in the Dursley household bothered about him. In short, Harry had a very free life. excluding being treated like a slave by doing all sorts of chores and lack of food. This morning, Harry was sleeping soundly on his bed in his usual clothing. He had been practicing charms last night with Hermione. By the end of it, he had been too tired to change and promptly fell asleep. Suddenly, a bang followed by a yell sounded throughout the room and Harry jerked awake in shock. Sadly, due to his sleeping position near the bed, poor Harry landed on the floor. His breath left him in a huff. Dean was yelling and wrestling in his bedclothes in fright while Seamus was trying to help him. Ron was looking around wildly, face as pale as nearly headless Nick. Rubbing his sore bottom, Harry gently rose up and glared at Neville Longbottom, who was shivering in the far corner of the room, eyes looking at a spot in the middle of their bedroom. "What was that for?" roared Dean as soon as he disentangled himself from the bedclothes. "Yeah, Neville, you blimey almost gave me a heart attack," added Ron. "Boot a broken bar, egg a broken bar, explodia a broken bar, didn't know a broken bar," stuttered Neville, looking at the spot of the floor and each of them in turn at intervals. "Calm down, Neville, we aren't mad. Now tell us slowly, what happened?" Seamus chided. Harry watched their interaction with interest. Suddenly, he was interrupted by a bark from the window behind his bed. Harry swiftly turned around and smiled when he saw Nightalon fluttering around the window sill. His smile disappeared, however, when the little owl did not stop fluttering. A glint of color caught Harry's eye and said eyes widened when he saw a small colorful egg beside his owl. The egg was yellow in color, decorated with 2 red stripes that ran around the top and bottom of the whole egg. Orange diamonds decorated the center of the red stripes at a pattern. It was very lovely, except that Nightalon is a male owl. Harry picked up the egg and examined it carefully. Nightalon was looking at him in distress. It was obvious the owl thought it had laid the egg. Madara was in the shadows of his pillow and even it was looking at the egg in interest. "What's that?" Harry turned around and looked at Ron, who had spoken. The other 3 boys are also looking at him, their previous scare forgotten in favor of this new discovery. "I don't know, it looks like an egg but nothing like any egg I have seen before," exclaimed Harry. Just as soon as he finished saying it, there was a flash of yellow light and the egg disappeared. The next thing he knew, Harry was squirted with a face full of bubbles. Blinking in astonishment, Harry looked at his friends who were howling in laughter. Pouting, Harry waited for them to finish. Ron clutched his sides and tried to catch his breath, occasionally letting loose a giggle and looking at Harry. "Merlin's pants, your face, your expression." Ron could not help it. He let loose another round of laughter and started pounding his bed with his fist. The other 3 weren't much better and Seamus is holding his stomach, bent in half by his own laughter. Soon, Neville managed to control himself. Panting slightly, Neville posed the question, "What do you think just happened?" Harry frowned in concentration, wondering about the egg. Suddenly, he brightened up. "I don't know, but I know who will know." Looking at all their expectant expressions, Harry gave a grin. "Hermione." By the time Hermione got down to the Great Hall, most of the students had already tucked in. She smiled when she saw Harry eating while glancing around the table left and right warily. Ron, on the other hand, was stuffing his mouth full like usual. No surprise there. As soon as she sat down, Harry rounded on her. "Out with it, Hermione, what's going on?" Exploding colored eggs, singing doorknobs, doors that lead to all the wrong places and glitter dropping down from nowhere. This is getting alarming. Hearing Harry recounted the happenings in his room that morning, Hermione chuckled. "Simple, April Fools," she yelled and burst out laughing when Harry flinched backwards at her sudden crescendo. "What?" Ron looked at her dumbly. "Honestly, it is the 1st of April. April's Fool has arrived." That's what the announcement was about. Professor Dumbledore has arranged the castle to have jokes and tricks popping out everywhere. The girl bathroom was remodeled into a boys' bathroom apparently. Pravarti and Lavender had a shock when they walked in earlier, replied Hermione. Just then, there was a shout at the entrance of the Great Hall. The Weasley twins came in, both grinning at each other. The both of them were sprouting a head of blue hair, a serious contrast to their usual look. Everyone started laughing and pointing. It was then a furious screech of horror can be heard. Harry diverted his eyes towards the Slytherin table. There, sat Malfoy and Pansy Parkinson. Pansy was looking at Malfoy in concern. Malfoy's two goons, Crabbe and Goyle, however, were laughing loudly along with the rest of the Slytherin table. Malfoy's face had flushed to a deep red, anger shining ravidly in his gray eyes because his usual platinum blonde hair had somehow been replaced with weaselly red. The young boy jumped up and stormed out of the hall, shouting in anger. Pansy quickly scurried after him, laughter following behind them. The last Harry heard was Malfoy saying something about his father stepping in. "Oh dear, it seems we better be careful," said a smiling Hermione. Classes were a total disaster that day. Books turned into lunchboxes and desks were hopping around like animals. Needless to say, some of the professors were not pleased. There was of course a precious few like Professor Flitwick who enjoyed the humor running amok, though he himself was not spared when the stack of books the professor stands on while teaching decided to sprout wings and fly off, tipping the little professor behind the desk unceremoniously, much to the delight of the class. Harry was running towards potions. He was late and for a very good reason. While walking down the castle's magical stairs to the ground floor, it had suddenly become intangible. Harry had fell through it with a horrified yell and even Mudor who was curled around Harry's arm at that time had hissed and alarmed. Fortunately, some enchantment had been on the castle floor as he had just merely bounced off the ground like it was a cushion before coming to a halt. Deeply shaken, it had taken Harry a whole 10 minutes to recover his wits and another 10 to calm the trembling snake. Therefore, by the time they were both ready, Harry was very late. His footsteps echoed throughout the stairway as he ran down. He dreaded entering class as Professor Snape is nasty on a normal basis. With Harry late, he will be worse than ever. He quickly rounded a bend, and bumped into a tall body. Momentum forced Harry backwards as he landed with a bump and he groaned at his bad luck. Looking upwards, Harry's face contorted in horror as he was looking up at none other than his very own headmaster, Professor Dumbledore. Professor Dumbledore had been checking to some paintings as there have been reports of vandalism. It turned out to be only spilled pumpkin juice. He should have known it was not that serious. After all, this isn't the first time Madame Rosaria Larker so exaggerated over mundane stuff. It was something she does on a daily basis and many of the school elves had been subjected to her complaints for endless hours, trying to please her portrait one way or other for a little peace. Humming a tune, Professor Dumbledore was taking his time returning to his office. He hoped the students are enjoying his surprise. After all, it is not every day a student is privileged with being pranked on, imagined Professor Dumbledore surprised, when he was bowled backwards by a little force when reaching a corner. Professor Dumbledore stumbled backwards, silently cursing. He frowned at the student but quickly changed his expression to one of surprise when he saw Harry Potter. The boy had horror etched all over his face and he seemed flustered. "I am sorry, Professor Dumbledore. I wasn't watching where I was going." "That is all right, young Harry, but do watch where you are going. We don't need any accidents now, do we?" Professor Dumbledore said with a twinkle in his eyes. "No, Professor, I am sorry," Harry said, embarrassed. "May I know what the rush is?" "I am late for potions, sir. I fell through the stairs in the Great Hall. I got a fright and it delayed me." Professor Dumbledore smiled. Time to score some brownie points, he thought. Ah yes, the intangible stairs trick paired with a cushioning charm. Your father introduced that trick if I remembered correctly. A brilliant trick if I may say so myself. The transfiguration work needed for it isn't easy. Harry blinked in astonishment. "My father did that?" "Yes, my boy, your father was really good in transfiguration. One of my best students in fact. Now, you are late for potions if I am not wrong." Seeing Harry nodded his head, Professor Dumbledore smiled warmly. "Come along, I will explain to the professor. I am sure he won't mind." With that, Professor Dumbledore whirled around towards Snape's class. Harry blinked. He could not believe his luck. Head still buzzing with the headmaster's praise of his father, Harry followed him happily. Night soon arrived and Harry collapsed into bed with a sigh. The tricks are starting to take a toll on everyone. He had been pranked on 7 times altogether and he is starting to get jumpy. The only students who enjoyed the entire day were the Weasley twins. Even Hermione had lost her eagerness after her homework was magically wiped blank for no reason. It was only after Professor McGonagall casted the counter charm on Hermione's homework then only the hysterical girl was able to calm down. Suddenly, a gentle tapping alerted Harry. Looking up, he saw a school owl. He opened the window and the owl flew in and landed beside Harry. A letter was in its beak. Harry fed it a treat and hastily gave one to Nidalon who was nearby when he saw his owl glared at the school owl jealously. The school owl gave a hoot and spread its wings before disappearing out into the night. Harry was curious. He knew of no one who will send him a letter. Picking it up, Harry opened it. He felt his spirits lifted when he scanned the contents. Despite Madara urging him on to reveal the letter's contents, Harry smiled and hushed him, saying it will be a surprise. He then went off to change into pajamas, leaving the curious Knight alone and a sulking Madara behind.